time to call we are. I'd like to take this time to invite you to our last meeting of the year. We have so much to thank from God is on from January 2021 to December, last month. We have a lot to be grateful for and be thankful for because He has been good to us. It's been a terrible year. And through it all, He was there with us. Amen. I will do the prayer at this incredible time. Will you please stand? I take a moment of silence for all those people lost their lives through this terrible pandemic. Over 800,000 people lost their lives. I don't think for Mr. Father, we come to your presence with thanksgiving in our hearts. Thank you for all the blessings and experience each and every one of us. Really right, and without you, we could never accomplish anything. And Father, I be remiss not to thank you for this one Jesus, Lord, it's been possible. And who is the reason for this season. I just want to say thank you. And Father, I pray for this Jesus as we come this our last meeting. We thank you for bringing from January to this present time in December. Really right, and through it all, we are done with us. I pray for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. To be the good prayer of this prayer to the best of our ability. I pray for the jury here. I pray for everyone son of good voice. I pray for widows and orphans. I pray for the less fortunate God. Please look at them. I pray for our military. I pray for our leaders, for the religious and political leaders. Please, Father, please look at them mercy. Father, I pray for first responders. Just pray for them. As you come in here, Father, lead us guide us open into the 2022 year. And Father, anything we say we don't hear, we be mine. We be all the things. It's what Jesus name that I pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Here.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Here.
Mr. Chris Hall.
Here.
Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Here.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Olivo.
Here.
Dr. Chrissy Oakland. Here. President Louis King.
Here. We have motion to approve the agenda with two additions. So move. Two additions. The first addition discuss damages to the Lower Road, which is being Carol Russo, which adds maps. The maps have been advertised. It was, when the full plan is on, it was oversight for the left off the joint. Any discussion? Question from the audience? Is all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Old business. Adopted minutes from December 6, 2021, public hearing. Proposed 2022 budget.
I'll make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Motion adopted accordingly.
Second.
Second by Mr. Hall. Any discussion? Question from the audience? Is all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Adopted minutes from December 6, 2021, regular meeting. Everyone read it.
I hear what Mr. President, I understand and description, I'll make a motion to accept.
Motion by Mr. McCray.
Second.
Second by Dr. Quinn. Any discussion? Any question from the audience? Is that all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Any new business? Mr. Kelly, 2030. Discuss gravel pits on River Road. Ms. Laura Zero.
each other when they were in need and basically had each other's back. I grew up believing that a person should live and let live. Recently, property owners on River Road heard that we had a new neighbor. It was Southern Advocates, and they would process gravel from their property. Well, it was their property, and Southern Advocates should be able to do with their property as they choose to, as long as all permits and laws were followed. At first, it wasn't too bad. Trucks were quiet, there were a few of them, they didn't seem to be doing much damage. But after several months, the pounding began. The trucks ran all hours of the night. For many months, the road in front of my house was terrible, even to the point of being dangerous. When trucks approached that area, they began to jailbreak. After coasting through that area, they then began to accelerate to gain enough momentum to get up over the next hill. Over a period of 4 or 5 months, the noise level became unbearable. So loud that some neighbors would go to work at 2 in the morning because sleep was not an option. Headlights pierced through bedroom windows, the truck drivers blowing their air horns constantly at each other all hours of the night. But wait, Southern Advocates was building a new road, and all the problems we were experiencing would soon go away. We would soon return to the peace, quietful life that had been ours for years, and we were excited. We could hang on a little longer if this would soon be over. And then we would still have been a good neighbor, and life would be calm again. But then came a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers. And after receiving my letter and being concerned, I phoned a neighbor to ask him if he had received the letter, and he had not. My neighbor, Mr. Robert Massart, reached out to Southern Advocates engineer to discuss the impact that letter would have on neighboring property owners. Surely the representative, Mr. Lee Womack, could give us some insight. We would then be good neighbors and wait it out. But Mr. Womack was conveniently tied up and unable to meet with us to discuss the impact until after the comment period was closed with the Corps. My son, Hunter Gerald, then reached out to Ronnie Patnella, project manager for Southern Advocates, and asked for a meeting. Mr. Patnella agreed to have a couple Southern Advocates reps sit down with several neighbors to discuss what was going on. However, 2 days before the meeting they canceled, but suggested that we reach out to Ms. Sandra Gainey with the Corps of Engineers. After multiple attempts to contact Ms. Gainey, she finally sent an email. We asked for elevation determination, flood maps information, or input for us to be able to make an informed decision during this comment period. She stated that although she had the information, it must come from Mr. Womack with Southern Ag. Conveniently, he's not available. Although there were many homeowners affected, only 4 received letters, and no letters were mailed to the residents of East Feliciana Parish, all to Baton Rouge addresses. My letter went to a previous home that I haven't lived in 3 years. When Ms. Gainey was questioned about this, she stated all names and address were provided to the Corps by Southern Advocates. The letter stated that property owners would be affected by a 4-foot burn, 2 80-foot railroad car bridges that would cause our property to flood. Many of us had poured our life savings, our lifeblood into this land, and now we're expected to sit back, be those good neighbors, and allow this to happen. Mr. Womack even told my neighbor that if we could sit back and have no comment, the sooner they would be off River Road, with no concern of the adjacent landowners flooding. At this point, completely frustrated, we reached out to Gary Graves' office, Julie Letlow's office, and the Corps of Engineers, who all stated in emails back to us, this is a parish problem. Mr. Paul Sawyer, a representative for Congressman Gary Graves' office, offered to help a parish representative. I even forwarded that email to several people in the office. When I informed the parish officials what was happening, they had no knowledge of any of this going on. It is my understanding that a floodplain permit, a road use permit, and an operating permit should be required. Not only is Southern Advocates doing this to us, but they are doing this to you as parish officials, who are totally liable because no permits were required for Southern Ag. I'm so confused. A $1 billion operation operating in the parish of East Feliciana has taken only a road use permit that the parish can't produce. They have no actual permits to operate a business. They're running business 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. However, did you know, if you are a resident of East Feliciana and you want to have a trail ride, you must apply for a permit for a trail ride. The trail ride must begin 30 minutes after daylight and end 30 minutes before dark. You're required to hire 2 deputies, 2 flagmen and escorts, and provide a bathroom. Yet if you want to operate a gravel pit, you bypass all parish laws and ordinances. I am no attorney, but after reading over the ordinance that this parish has in place, being told by multiple state and federal agencies it's a parish problem, it is extremely frustrating. These concerns keep falling on deaf ears. In your ordinance, there is a line that waives any liability if not followed properly. However, Article 2004 states you cannot waive liability. If no one on this police jury sees any fault in the parish, I beg one of you to step up and ask for an expedited Attorney General's opinion. River Road residents need your help. You police juries took an oath of office to represent the citizens of this parish. However, the trucks are still speeding, non-stop day and night, running off in ditches, running residents of River Road in ditches, tearing up our roads, knocking out our lights for hours, disrupting water lines, and no one seems to care. The new road would lessen the issues. However, from speaking to Southern Agriculture rep, Ronnie Patnelli, he stated they know our property will take on water, and so does the Corps. With the proposed 2 80-foot bridges and berms being built, there are several homes in our area that will certainly take on water. We're asking only that Southern Advocates be fair, adhere to the parish laws, which should seek to protect us citizens. I'm here tonight to ask you to step up and correct permits and protect the citizens of this parish, because River Road residents are begging for your help. We're desperate, and we need help.
Southern Advocate, I talked with the DA, pass it on the stand. What we got, anything on the deal?
We did compose a letter and did a public records request to the Corps. We got a response. The Corps is only responsible for about probably 25% of that total footprint of that property, only the wetlands part, which is the northern part of it. The rest of it is not their responsibility according to their letter. They did say in their letter that the footprint is St. Helena and East Feliciana Parish. If you guys remember, St. Helena's got one little finger that comes to this side, to the west side of the river. And that they will not issue a permit without a letter of acceptance from East Feliciana and St. Helena Parish. And it is an expansion. It's not a permit to operate, it's a permit for an expansion of their operation. Our engineers did reach out, just as she had said, and the project engineer is out of the office till after the New Year. So, but they did reach out to Matrix. Isn't it Matrix, the ones that's designing the big overall? They said Matrix is a very reputable engineering firm, and if they're going to get a copy of the actual model of it. So the plans that you guys got are not the actual plans for it. It's a preliminary. They said the actual plans, it doesn't matter if you're building a 30-foot levee. It's going to have cutouts. Whatever the Corps says the cutouts, they say they're 18 inches and they're 18 inches. So it doesn't matter how tall it is, it's the amount of cutouts they're going to make them put in. This said, We have yet to find a permit for them to actually be operating.
Okay, well, that's an easy fix.
We did issue them a heavy haul permit, which is the only thing the parish has to go off of. And we made them put up a $750,000 cash bond to use our road. But as far as any individual, I think, Mr. Flynn, we have something to look at today on it. But only thing we have is a heavy haul permit, the same that loggers use, the same that everybody uses when they do a heavy haul.
So are they supposed to have an
They
operating
do.
permit?
That is out of my forte, and our engineers have requested any permits from the Corps that they have, and from wildlife and fisheries to operate.
Do they even have an occupational license through the sheriff's office?
I can't answer that.
Well, we need to find out.
I mean,
The
if they
only
don't
thing
have-
that they came here for us, they came and talked to us about permitting. They have a portable building with a generator and no plumbing.
Okay, wait,
That,
it's not true.
That's what they-
Okay.
That's what we were told.
Okay, not true.
during ours, when we lost power, we had our meeting at the barn, Demco came to us and said, we need to use the barn to house some people. Can we put the juice back on Free Hall? They came and did that. We were the last spot on their route to come through because they had to connect the gravel plant back up and running. So when they came back through and cleared our power lines, they came through our property, through our front gate to get them back up and going.
Yeah, they haven't come to this office before. We didn't issue a permit for electricity.
So if they don't have a permit, how are they operating? Period.
That is out of my forte.
Is anybody here from the company?
That's gonna be nearly impossible to get. I have begged, borrowed, pleaded to meet with anybody who will sit down and give me 5 minutes just to address the concerns we've got, because they're legitimate. We're not making them up. They're the ones who sent us the letter. I beg to have 5 minutes of their time just to tell them, we've got a problem, and no one will help guide us in the direction to fix it.
You know, that's an easy fix too. Jody, can we give them a cease and desist? Have them here, meet with the residents and with the, and we can even do one of the committees.
What you want, like a stop work order?
Cease and desist.
Let me stop.
We did. We can't give them that. We can give them a,
If
not
somebody
to get on our
sent me a,
road no more.
if somebody sent me a letter that said that they were fixing to flood my property, I would have a major problem. I am the first one to say that I agree wholeheartedly with your statement. Southern Agri should be able to do whatever they want on their property. I agree with that. Right up until the point that they infringe on a neighbor, then that's our job to step in and say, okay, on your brakes, big fella.
We've been going through Sam's office with everything. We've addressed that and a few other things to try and get an opinion on it.
But if they're operating without a permit, period, I mean, it's easy to say, okay, that's not ours, but if they don't have a permit, do we need to get the sheriff's department to shut them down? Who needs to shut them down? Somebody needs to shut them down if they don't have a permit to
We've
operate.
been able to get anyone to provide it. We need to have them provide a permit if they have one.
We don't issue that permit?
That's a minor thing.
For mine.
That's what the federal government.
Okay.
I'm not even concerned with that as much as I am the impact on neighboring projects. Care less.
Well, we're gonna expect if they have more line of electricity going into their building, then there you go.
Have we all tried to reach out to Mr. DeClue?
Oh, we did. We sat down with him, my son and I did, and Kyle. And the reason I asked about getting an attorney general's opinion is because Mr. DeQuilla is, taking it on like, we have to flood first, and then we have a case against them. Which if they send me a piece of paper, the Corps that says, they gonna put up these berms and these railroads, and out of Ronnie Patinella's mouth says, the Corps knows you're gonna take on water, and our company knows you're gonna take on water. I have been battling a battle, and I just can't understand. I mean, even to the point where I sat back for a long time with the trucks. I'm about 1,500 feet off the road. Some of my neighbors, including my son, are right on the road. And I heard their complaints. But shame on me as a good neighbor. I did not stand up until I'm gonna take on water. And I built my forever home. I have a little slice of heaven off River Road, and I love it. And the thought of a $1 billion company coming up, they don't abide by one law, one guideline, one standard. The Corps told us they cannot put up berms until they get an approval. The berms are up.
Any of y'all are more than welcome to bring a pair of rubber boots
Yeah,
and
the
walk around
berms
our
are
house
up.
and see them. They
So-
construct them the day we got the letter.
Just a research.
Parish has a floodplain ordinance. It requires a floodplain permit, and that's a big blue blob out there where they're mining. So if they don't have a floodplain or floodplain permit for development and gravel mining, building that road, you can shut them down instantly.
That's
That
part of
ordinance.
what my topic
Like, I don't know
was.
if the jury remembers, this is the company that came to us and said they were gonna pay to redo the whole bridge to go out opposite.
And then they didn't do anything they
And
said they were
didn't do
gonna do.
anything that they said they
No,
were
that's
gonna
all tied up with this. That's all part of the car expansion. It's an expansion project, so that's
No,
all
they came
tied
in and
into
told,
this.
this was before your time, Jody, they came in and told us that they were gonna foot the bridge 100%. Remember that?
That was on Beaver Creek.
Yeah, they were
They were gonna foot that bridge so they could go out a different direction. And then came back and asked us when we were gonna pay for it, after they said they were gonna pay. So, that's my dealings with the company so far. And look, Chrissy and I had a long talk about this today, and my take on the truck roll. I'm sure it is annoying as all get. But at what point do you say, how can a jury say one car can pass but another car can't?
Dude, Mr. Jason's on 4A. If you look at item 4A, it's tied into this. On the agenda.
As it states in our law, we cannot prevent a company from anyone from getting their product out.
Today, they had their
If you're not
third
stopping, you're gonna go.
big truck run off of River Road in 12 days.
Well, I can promise you this, if they don't have a floodplain permit, and I already know about that, I didn't think about it. And if they don't have it, and Ms. Johnny's shaking her head no, then we can give them a cease and desist tomorrow morning and have them. It's really simple. I mean, I know we all say we can't stop somebody from doing something, but if you're not doing what you're supposed to, by God, we can. And then we can come in, because honestly, so Garrett Graves' office told you guys this is a parish problem?
Yes, I got emails from Garrett Gray, Julie Letlow, and the court.
And when we sat down with Sam, he proceeded to tell us that we should get an attorney involved representing us because he couldn't go any farther at this point. We sat down with that attorney, and with the ordinances in place, with the flood permits, it is a parish problem wholeheartedly, 210%. Because the ordinance was there. Sam kept saying, we've got to draft something, we've got to draft something. Nothing has to be drafted. 4 out of the 5 on 5A in the ordinance flood cover everything Southern Ag is doing to us.
Well, we need to refer this to one of the committees, and we need to do something to help these people.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
The other thing, their heavy load permit, on that heavy load, it gives their hours of operation as part of the permit, but
And we went with Sam on that, and they responded to Sam that they're not doing 24/7.
Unbelievably not true. I have video, they line up at 9:45 at the gates, 9:45 at night at the gates.
I set out in
Do we
my
have the
boxers
permit?
and t-shirt.
Well, they had an accident at the time that they were not supposed to be in the truck.
Mr. Morrow, can you advise Mr. Court that Attorney General approval, this part of expedite this as quick as possible?
Thank you.
But do we want to give them a cease and desist
I'll
right
shut them,
now?
I'll shut them
I
down.
think you shut them down
I'll
right
shut
now.
them down.
Who issues that?
Our office, they don't have a floodplain permit, I would shut them down.
Because I'm gonna tell you this, that company, and I stand here before and tell you, not one thing that comes out their mouth is the truth. Not one thing. They don't care about us. They are, it's just terrible. In the very beginning, the truck drivers were so mean, aggressive, and bullied. I mean, I've almost been run off the road twice. I told y'all, one of them dumped a load of gravel in my driveway where I couldn't get out. I mean,
And we had not voiced one complaint or concern at that point, because it was their land, they should be able to do
and maybe they
exactly what
thought
they
I
want.
had,
But
but
we
they
did
dumped a load
nothing
of
to
gravel where I couldn't get out my driveway, as I sat, trying to pull out my driveway.
So what's the pleasure of the jury? We can expedite
It's
it.
on the agenda, let's take action.
We'll take action.
You
It's
know,
a
shut
it's
it off.
not a vote. All right. Y'all just tell us what to do.
I think we need to shut them down and make them come to the table and help these folks. This is, if it's not this issue, it's another issue. It's always an issue with them.
I agree with that wholeheartedly.
So I was with DEQ for 30 years, environmental scientist, and I've looked over the DEQ permits they have, water permits and air permits. PM10 is respirable particles, when you're making dust. PM 3.5 is very respectable, very dangerous. The DEQ permits require them to monitor for that. It's all done on their property. They wet the roads on their property to keep the dust down. But the dust on River Road is hell. And no monitoring and all hours of the day and night. Can you imagine the burden on the animals, on the horses, on the people, on the babies? And so why can't they come out on the River Road and wet the River Road every now and then? There's some simple measures.
But let me tell you this, though, excuse me, Chris, when I say, I sat back and was a good neighbor, as they stirred up dust, I had dust in my pool, I had somebody out constantly, and then they decided to burn with tires back behind me, and I had black soot all in my pool. I sat back quiet because I was a good neighbor.
Step back by and hired a professional company to come out
Yes.
and clean it so it did not stain and mess it up after it's
But,
done.
but now, as I sit here, my belly is full, and I won't help. I'm begging.
We're doing what we can, yes, sir.
To follow up on the DEQ comment, I had a 3-minute piece, but I'm not gonna say that right now, but what he's saying is absolutely correct. My wife runs on River Road. I walk our dogs on River Road. We're 2 acres away from the edge of the road. We have trees that filter the dust, but they start at 3 a.m. The dust is horrendous. My wife got fed up with it. She called Feliciana DEQ. They went out to the plant, Southern Aggregates plant. They cited them for excessive particulate matter in the air at the plant, and they told her, we can't cite them for all of River Road, but the same particulate matter that they're being cited for at the plant exists from the plant all the way back to Highway 10 on River Road. That is what we have been breathing and dealing with. We've got trees and we're 2 acres back. People that live on River Road, I'll guarantee you, their health is being impacted. And LADEQ said the plant's particulate matter excessive is all the way along River Road.
I'll add to that. We live in a 180-year-old home that had original windows in it up until July because we had to have new windows put in because the dust was so bad. So we had to get rid of the original windows that were in our home because the dust every day was so bad coming into the house from the trucks. And they don't start at 6 a.m. It doesn't matter to me what Southern Aggregates has told the parish, what they've told anybody. I have hundreds, and I am telling you literally hundreds of video evidence of trucks running up and down the road between 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. I have videos of them honking at each other at 3:30 in the morning. I have the video evidence, and I welcome any of you to ask me for it, and I will provide it to the police jury because we do have this. We have all of the things that you need to see to show that we're not just here making complaints. These are legitimate concerns, legitimate safety concerns. I've talked to Sam McVilla, I've talked to Jeff Travis, we've all talked until we are blue in the face, and we are so frustrated, and we are tired, we're not sleeping. We live directly on River Road, like within yards of it. So, and when I reached out to Mr. DeQuilla, he told me to call the news.
Thank you, ma'am. We've been on this long enough. We're gonna get the attorney general to set, we got them, these things, that we need to, that was good.
I want, like, Chris says, we need, if they don't have a permit, we need to pull them, make them come here, and, cause look, it's kinda one of them deals. We at the top, we can ask forgiveness from the DA or somebody, because they're not gonna push us too far. That's just
Do
simple.
we have a copy of their heavy call? Does it have operating hours on it? No.
But should we have a set operating hours?
That's up to you guys. I just think tomorrow, at a minimum, we can give these people peace for Christmas. We give them a cease and desist, have them come here, most people are gonna be off anyway, have them come here and set up a meeting with the residents and the jury or the executive committee, one of the committees.
They need to come here and find the R
and get this fixed.
to more order them to cease the operation and say, is in our court, it's bound to go and do something.
Can like one person give Mr. Morrow an email address?
I got all that.
You got it already?
Everything what we gonna do now.
Sure, yeah.
They will cease operation until they meet with us, not till we get an attorney there up here.
Well, I guarantee they'll come down.
Okay?
There's
We'll be
somebody
closed
have
on
more time.
Wednesday, so.
And I appreciate y'all more than you know to sit here and listen to us, because I'm not a complainer. I told Dr. Chrissy, I'm not a complainer. This was very hard for me to come up here and complain, but we need to be heard.
We
You know,
wait for you all.
And we appreciate this, yes.
And for the jurors, that a couple of us who are closer out there were invited to a meeting they had out there. And these videos that they're talking about, it's unbelievable what's going on there. The noise and the clothes and all of that. So we've seen it.
Mr. Chair.
Okay. Well, thank you all for coming on the Merry Christmas, and we'll be back
Supposed to be,
as
Demco
soon as
told me
possible.
they were going to reduce the plant back up.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Mr. Kevin Sewell's here?
Kevin Toombs has been involved in scouting since Cub Scouts, earning the highest rank of scouting, Eagle, in 1977. Even though he is retiring from being Scoutmaster of Troop 51 on December 31st, 2021, he will remain involved in some capacity. During his time as Scoutmaster, he has received the District Award of Merit and the Silver Beaver Award, one of the highest honors for volunteering in Scouts. Kevin rechartered Troop 51 in Jackson in 1988, along with the help of two Jackson men he knew from his past scouting involvement, C.D. Ellis and Charles Ferris. These three men restarted Troop 51 with just 5 boys, two of whom continued on to become Kevin's first Eagle Scouts. Kevin believes in the scouting program and what it teaches young boys as they grow into our future leaders. He has done all 3 high adventure bases, Philmont, Northern Tier, and Sea Base. Of these 3, Philmont has always been his favorite. Kevin made the Philmont trek 7 times. His first time in college with the troop he was involved with in Monroe. Similar to many programs, scouting strength lies in its volunteers. For the program to be successful, you need volunteers to be strongly committed to the programs and the boys. Whenever an activity was on the scout calendar, Calvin was there and made sure he had the required adult leadership, even if only 2 scouts were interested in attending an activity. Kevin made sure it took place for them. As the boys get older, other activities such as sports always compete for the boys' interest. But Kevin always thought the high adventure programs, such as Philmont, kept them involved into the age of 18. Troop 51 has had 66 Eagle Scouts under Kevin's leadership. One of his Eagles will be taken over as Scoutmaster in January. Troop 51 is strongly supported by the community, and the troop will continue with leaders who learn from Kevin how to lead by example.
And as you know, it was a question posed to you. Who's the greatest one among you? You said to serve. So it's better to serve than to be served. The service comes from the heart. You have to have in your heart to be served. Mr. Toombs, on behalf of the police jury, I present you this statement. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys.
Submit to Scoutmaster Kevin Toombs for recognition of dedication and service to the kids with this kind of thing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
place two mobile homes, 6726 River Road, Susan Simmons.
I'm double dipping because I'm also a River Road resident that is affected by the gravel pit. And I just wanted to say, having everything that's been said, I don't believe in complaining unless you have a solution. And so I would like to see, as a landscape architect, I would like to see a flood impact study done. And watershed studies done by our engineering, that works for the parish, and get a game plan so that this gravel company can do the right thing. You have to get a committee together or something so we can say, you want to operate here, this is what you need to do so that you don't flood these people. Because I don't think $1 million organization, company is just going to do the right thing unless you force them to. And on the hardship case, we have elderly parents, one with cancer, prostate cancer, the other one with dementia. So we'd like to have them right in our side pocket, so that we can continue to care for them, without having to travel so far. So we'd appreciate a variance, so we can let them live next door to us for a little while, not forever, for a little while, so they don't have their last days. One's 88, and the other one's 89. So
And if
appreciate your consideration.
we have been hardship from medical, what's the pleasure of the
Somewhere.
We're going to start. Second by Mr. Johnson. Any discussion?
Do you need time, Raymond, before this come back?
No.
Thank
It's
you.
best to do it, we've been doing it on the rest of them, I'd like to see at least a year. And if you have to come back, come
Come
back.
back when
Thank
we
you.
visit it, once you come back.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Question from the audience? Is all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda, discuss Overton Lane addresses, Mr. Ben Chesky.
Good afternoon. The other day, we got an application for an address for Ms. Misty Vaughn on Overton Lane. It's for several lots. The problem that we're running into is everything on Overton Lane is, being that it's a private road, is addressed off Highway 412. We don't have any more addresses to give, not to mention that once I rode down there, the addresses are way out of sync, the ones that are currently down there. I'm here tonight, I don't wanna hold the people up from doing their business, but, I was wondering if y'all could pass some type of ordinance to let me address off of a private, off of Overton Lane, a private
We did a
road.
private secretary. It's private, right?
Yes,
How many houses are that?
I think it's like 18 houses in a business, and if this is a
18 in a business?
and they're gonna put 8 more lots in from what I'm being
How,
told.
how many?
8 off of another service.
Family partition.
Trying to put this.
And our servitudes are allowed to have,
Or.
Which the right of way is 40 feet. I'm only given an address every 10 feet, so that's 4 addresses. But of course, this was done long before my
No.
time. I know we have Carmina Lane that I've addressed off of, it's a public road, but y'all don't maintain it. So I don't know if y'all could do something like what you do with Carmina Lane.
Could you adopt the road?
No, we're not adopting any more.
I think the front of, all we talked about, I think the front of it is actually smaller than the back of the road. And that's where some of the issues are.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes,
The
sir.
first half of the road is far.
I'm sorry, yes, sir.
I'd like to add some information. Y'all have talked to Jeff up here and went to your office and they talked to Rachel. I actually did the survey on that lot back there for the folks that are looking for an address to whatever they're doing up there. Let me tell y'all what's going on back there, and it's a numbering problem. It's not an ordinance problem, it's not the fact that those lots were subdivided, it's a numbering problem. So what you have here is a private servitude coming off of 412, which serves 14 tracts. It's in the town of Slaughter, on the west side of this private servitude road. So you got 14 tracts of land in Slaughter already on this private servitude. Then you cross over the north town limits of Slaughter back into East Feliciana Parish. before I did the subdivision, you already had 7 tracts of land being served off this private servitude in East Feliciana Parish, y'all had jurisdiction on. So these folks bought 39 acres or whatever it was, and we divided it into 8 tracts. Now let me just tell y'all that, you're right. Normally speaking, you can only do 4 tracts of land off a private servitude unless it's a family petition. That's always been the police jury's ordinance. That's always been the planning commission's stance and the police jury. Matter of fact, part of your ordinance on the checklist is right on your checklist. This is how y'all always operate. Number 9 on the checklist, the servitude of passage has to be a minimum of 25 feet. The servitude can only serve 4 lots, which is under exception 9 of your ordinance, subdivision ordinance, unless they are family members. That's always been y'all's position. You wasn't gonna keep family from getting their property, even though it's beyond the 4. And then, of course, you just have to note on the map that this is a donation of property between blood relatives. So this was done kosher, this was done according to your ordinance, but yes, it does add 8 more lots in there. It's always been y'all's position, and it's your current ordinance.
So there's a family petition.
It's a family petition. Now,
On this one, but what about the 18 before?
well, that's in slaughter, that's their deal.
Is that all we did, that's what I'm saying, is wrong. You know,
So, talking to Miss Rachel at Ben's office up there, that's their business, and I'm not at all trying to tell them their business and on the number, but I did pull up y'all's Unicode on your whole 911 emergency address. You understand what Mr. Williams is trying to do? You can't issue a permit till you get 911. I don't know, Ben, if you're out of addresses for the lot 1, the parent tract was like 39 acres. I'm just using a number. I don't know if he even has a number, say lot 1 was 1,000, but in your ordinance, you can do subdivisions, just like an apartment, a mobile home park, or subdivision of land. You can say it's 1,000 lot 1, 1,000 lot 2, and if you're even out of numbers, the most close address, 4774, that this, it's a 1 acre lot, this Mr. Michael Heinrich has. I don't know why it's not kosher, you can just grab that number, 4774 lot 1, 4774, it's just a number. So my point is, y'all need to be aware of, this is all over the parish for the last 40 years. I mean, off of Jean Bryan Lane, off of Cook Corny Road, it's the same thing. Y'all recently approved subdivision maps in there that family, the number goes beyond that. So I'm just pointing out, y'all need to be aware of that, looking toward the future on long past due, trying to revamp y'all's subdivision ordinance and things y'all been looking at. What y'all want to do with this kind of stuff. But this problem right now is a numbering system. And I know Ben, I don't want to speak for him, but I'm just trying to give you information because all this is last. Now, so y'all can picture this. The servitude is about 3,100 feet long as it comes off of 412. You got about 3,140 feet in the town of Slaughter. And it makes a 90-degree curve to the left and a 90-degree curve to the right. That servitude's about a total of 2,100 feet that y'all are over in the parish. So you're talking about a private servitude road that's over 5,000 feet. And total, between Slaughter and East Feliciana Parish, you're going to have 28 tracts. Now, not all necessarily all those tracts have addresses, because usually people don't ask for an address where they're going to put a structure on their stuff. But you got, you have these kind of things all over the parish, and I don't know what Ben's office or y'all understand it permeates out of y'all or telling them how to set up the number system. I know they got a formula they have to follow by linear foot or however they apply it. But already in the Unicode, it states you can use suffixes to gather these numbers, block 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, I'm not trying to tell you, Mr. Ben, how to do it, but that's what I saw. But I'm just throwing the phone out to y'all so y'all can picture what's going on there. It's in Slaughter, it's in y'all. Why it's more than 4 tracks on there. Because that is y'all's ordinance. I mean, that's what's, when you check this, that's what y'all done for 40 years.
But let me ask you a stupid question. Somebody's buying this and they're busting it up into four lots, correct? 8 lots, and they're doing it for their family.
Yeah.
So it's a family right of passage to the guys he's busting up to? Because the servitude would not be a family right of passage because we're still selling lots on a road that has, who knows?
And they're all being addressed on 412, which is what Ben and I were talking
You've got like
about.
15 mailboxes on
you-
412.
You had you're got 90,000 on that road and you got intruder.
you call 911 and you give them the address, they're gonna pull up to 15 mailboxes, 15 addresses on 412. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't think the problem is the fact that it's an addressing problem. I think it's a problem somehow or another. We're letting things slide by.
Oh, it's definitely y'all's problem, because you need to fix this, but the
Yes.
current thing under the ordinance is an addressing problem. Because these people got their land, they did it kosher, it's according to y'all's ordinance. Like he
Well,
said,
it
we just need to get an
It
address
just
to
sounds
them.
like a loophole to me when you call it a family rite of passage, because you're busting one track into 8 and calling it a family rite of passage, when in all fact, the one servitude is supplying the whole track right now.
You're calling it what it is, Chris, it's just a purpose servitude of
That's
passage.
what I mean, if I go in and I buy 39 acres, and I say, okay, I'm gonna bust this up into 8 lots, and I'm gonna sell it to my kids, and call it a family rite of passage. Well, that sounds good, but it's still a private servitude. It gets there, everybody has to go down. It's not a family rite of passage. It's not like I'm putting a
It's
family.
not just a servitude of passage, I mean, family right of passage doesn't even exist. I mean, it's just a servitude of passage by state law to be able to access it, because you can't landlock
Can't
and
let
stuff.
it,
And I'm just saying, Chris, I'm being argumentative with you, I'm just saying that shows ordinance, and I agree, I'm trying to tell y'all, I'm just pointing out to y'all, this is exactly what y'all need to look at to fix it moving forward. Now, I can tell you right now, this is what you're gonna run into. Other parishes try to limit how many servitudes regardless if it's inherited property. So I don't care if you got 20 kids, you got 1,000 acres, you can only do 5 off a servitude, whatever that number is. But I was telling Mr. Williams, this is what I've seen, and also things you run into, especially with family property. You can have whatever your ordinance is, and then when people die, what trumps y'all's ordinance? Only one thing, a judgment by a judge, by a court. So he can go in there and say, yeah, you can only have 5 tracts on a private servitude, but now these people had 20 acres, they had 5 kids, we're busting that up into 5 pieces. And guess what? You gotta bust that up into 5 pieces. So you're always gonna run into things, especially with inherited property. So there's no perfect solution, like I told y'all, in any of these ordinances. But you need to figure out how you're gonna get it, how y'all want it best you can, and just deal with these problems as they come up. But you're right, this is a problem, but right now as it sits, it is a number problem. But y'all need to figure out how you want to fix this moving forward. And one of the things, and it's in what y'all had for several months to look at and tweak or whatever you want to do. You talk about emergency vehicles trying to get there. Right now, I'll just remind y'all, these private servitudes, it's just 2 lines on a piece of paper. That's all it is. It ain't even a road being required to be built. And in most other parishes, like in the ordinances for y'all to look at, that y'all asked us to revise, you have to build that road, so you present a map. If y'all want it to keep it at 4, that's fine. You won't get 5, whatever. But then the planning commission approves it. You got a 3-year window or whatever, how much time zone you want to give that person. In Baton Rouge is 3 years. They physically got to build a road. Your building department or someone y'all assign goes out and inspects that road. Usually 22 foot, 4 inches of aggregate. You got to build a road. Once it's built, they come back and tell y'all, okay, it meets our requirements, you can sign the map and go ahead and issue permits and whatnot. They use a 3-year window. If they don't get that road built in 3 years, the whole thing's moot, it's void, then you gotta start over. And I've actually had to do that before East Veterans Fair. The 3-year window didn't get met, everything was wiped out. I've got one right now, we're back in that 3-year window, but I had to go all through that process again. But also what they do, they make you name these private servitudes. Call it Flanagan Lane. It's a private servitude, you put a street sign. It's Flanagan Lane. The public doesn't care if it's a private servitude. EMS, doctors, whoever need to get there, they looking for a street sign, right? There's Flanagan Lane, we going down there, now it's just like a public road, even though y'all know it's not. That's besides the point. So, that's the kind of thing moving forward with these private servitudes, and that's why it's the nature of the beast. You know, you get more stuff going on.
Right now, just a number issue, right? If y'all are.
No, it's more than that, because if we keep approving this, who's to say that
There's a
Josh is
lot of
not
property
gonna go
down
on
there. There's a lot of property down this servitude.
Well, keep in mind on this one, you got 112 acres just to the east of this property that fronts on this servitude. They could bust it up with family. Then coming in off of 412, you got probably 200 acres that's in the town of Slaughter on the east side of this servitude. Now that's Slaughter's problem.
No address and it's our problem.
Well, I understand.
We can-
Well, I mean, what can we do? My point
Well, I
is
think the
addressing
first
this
thing we
right.
need to do is get our engineers,
They already got it.
they got it.
We never, and I really don't wanna discuss, I think it's for them and executive committee to discuss some of their stuff, but basically, they went in with Ascension Parish had the same issue and helped them tweak the ordinance there, and it sounds like that's pretty good ideas of what can be done with
Yeah,
this.
but the ordinance
And the
can't-
first thing is to define inheritance.
But the ordinance can't still, now, we go from that point forward, we can't go back.
Exactly.
So that's the difference.
And see, what we need to do, we need to maintain some consistency here, because we turning other people down for
Yeah.
things similar to this, and that's gonna come back on us. And if we gonna do it, I mean, if we're gonna do it for the one, we gotta do it for the other.
But now you got to do it, now that ordinance not in place, we cannot discriminate.
Well,
Well, the ordinance is in place.
But we never stop no more, so why would we stop people?
We done stopped a bunch of people.
Because we need to follow whatever the ordinance is.
I'm hearing y'all stop a bunch of people. I've never seen y'all be able to stop this family.
Family petition.
You never stopped a family petition.
We have not.
It's a family petition, he's asking.
And I agree, y'all need to fix this moving forward, but not these people, and not this situation. Y'all need to give them an address. There's nothing you can do. I mean, you can try to, not with these folks. They did everything. Y'all approved this map, the planning commission. It meets y'all's current ordinance.
That's what I'm saying.
It ain't their situation, their problem. It is right now a numbering problem. You give them a number, issue permits, do whatever they're gonna do with these 8 tracks.
Then we go from this point forward. not-
And until y'all do something else, you're gonna have to do something, because until you change an ordinance and put an ordinance in place, the next family petition that comes up that goes past the 4, you're gonna be meeting with the same
But Jim,
thing.
what's your opinion on that?
Well, I think my take is you get a family partition, okay? And then one of those family members sells a lot, and they do a family partition, okay? And so they get, say they got 8 more lots. So I mean, in Ben's case, he allots so many numbers on a private servitude, okay? I mean, I understand Mr. Jeff saying it's an address problem. You're only allotted so, I mean, on a private servitude, you're only supposed to have 4, okay? And down this particular road, you've got family, you know, whatever you want to call it, and they're selling a lot, and then next thing you know, they're doing a family partition. And then they sell a lot, and they're doing a family partition. Next thing you know, you got 20 lots in a private
The only
servitude.
mechanism we have in place to stop that is when they get down to the, what's the square footage? 12,500 square feet, and then they can't do it
But
anymore.
on this particular case, you've got a private servitude off of a private servitude. At the end, where these tracks are going into is off of another private servitude. So it's just,
And they can just keep doing, like I say, until they get down to
Yeah, so
12,500 square feet per lot.
it's a loophole. And everything that
Well,
Mr. Jeff done,
If it's 5,000 feet, so it's a mile long.
The whole servitude.
yeah.
Yes. So
But the only thing I will
how long
correct-
servitude with 18 people on it, that sooner or later, all 18 are gonna show up here and say, look, we're paying enough taxes in this parish, y'all need to maintain this road.
The only thing I have to correct, though, is not, look, I've been doing this and seeing this for 40 years up here, so long I've been involved with these surveys and these maps and stuff, and these exceptions that are 9 of them. The 4 tracks, you can't just keep saying we only allow 4 tracks, because that is an incorrect, wrong statement. Under exception 9, you allow 4 tracks. Under exception 5, which deals with donation of blood relatives, your ordinance has unlimited. So you can't keep telling the public, you can't keep saying we only allow 4. Under exception 9, you allow 4. Under 5, it's unlimited until y'all change it. I'm just trying to bring this to y'all's attention.
Could we get an executive committee, and I will set a meeting up with the engineers, because they do have some ideas on this that they would talk
Can we
about.
try?
The first thing is, you guys need
Ben, what do we
to
need to do?
define inheritance.
I'll shut up, man.
One family member removed.
It would help to be able to address off of these private road servitudes. I know other parishes do it. They might have a red street sign as he was talking about, instead of a blue one for public roads. It might be red or green or whatnot.
Can we sit down with the engineers and go and make this happen?
Yes.
I think,
They're waiting on permits now.
Yeah, right.
These people are waiting on permits now, right? So that's why we put it on the agenda to say, hey, what do y'all recommend so we can solve this particular problem? We obviously know there's a loophole in the ordinance that we obviously needs to be addressed, but in the meantime, these people want to do something with their property, so how can we move forward?
Mr. Jeff.
Those 15 mailboxes on 412 were scattered off down the private servitude with the mail.
Garbage truck won't go down.
So all the new property, they're gonna have to bring their trash all the way up.
So the only thing they do is do some merger.
Just a discussion.
So, I mean, if you read, this is a business owner, right?
Meeting with engineers
Then,
and.
Can you say that to
we'll call them people who think it is.
when y'all want, I'm the one that told these people, just didn't do anything till I get my address.
You don't have to address them right now, I mean.
Do we have to address them? Can we give them a temporary address?
Can I ask one question before I let you go? Mr. Ben, that last address that I mentioned, 4774, is it? Can you just use that and then add the suffixes lot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 if you don't have a number to put on that parent track?
It's like I was just telling Jody to start with, if you look at all the houses going down there, it's a nightmare from 412 to the end.
Well, I understand
You got
that.
4,800, 47, 48, 40, it goes back and forth.
I understand, but you got an existing address as close to the
No, because
property.
if I do it all 412, I'm changing all of them to start with. Starting tomorrow, I'll change everybody down the road.
Including the business, right, Ben?
Absolutely. Everybody to get it right. Because what's gonna happen is we're gonna get
That's
a
tough.
lawsuit, number one's gonna get a lawsuit.
Well, I mean, that's your meter code that you can change everything. I mean, I know you know that. I'm just.
No, I don't need
for
that.
y'all.
I don't have to come to them to change the address.
No, I'm just saying, it's in their code, it's in your ordinance already, how to do it. Yeah, I want to give y'all the detailed information on all that, and that these people have done everything they supposed to, so should be holding them up because of y'all trying to figure it out.
He's gonna have to fix all that. If you're gonna change everybody's address, somebody's getting mail at 8,200, whatever, it happens a good bit.
Week of Christmas.
All them
You didn't have to wait.
Is there an address for a barn or a tent pole or anything like that out there?
Bunch of tips, there's a bunch of photos.
Well, I mean, if there's a tent pole with no mail coming.
All right, let me ask you a question.
I mean-
And this may be as dumb as the day is long, but I'm asking you. Can you give a temporary address?
That's what
I
I
would
was
rather
saying.
not.
Really don't.
He's saying no, but you said you'd rather not.
I could, I don't, I wanna do that.
You can't. I do.
Because
But that's
everybody
better than
in that property-
changing everybody's address the week of Christmas.
So you're saying a temporary address just for those 8 people or whatever?
So they can pull a permit and then let them know up front, you will get re-addressed after first.
All right,
Just
Ben,
so
let me
you
ask you
don't
this.
stop them,
Ben-
But you're not changing everybody's address right now.
All right, let me ask you this, Ben. So,
But give them a temp so they can pull a permit.
these people are not wanting, they don't need an address for all 8 lots, right? They just want, if I'm correct, Mr. Jeff, they only want an address for one.
Well, to do whatever they're doing now, but whenever you figure out what you're gonna do, Mr. Ben, I mean, obviously they want all 8
That temp
addresses.
is good, I'm telling you.
Mr. Luciano?
If you have 4 lots on that, 4 numbers on that servitude, and Ben comes up with a plan of putting 2 numbers on the left side and 2 numbers on the right side, and then put A, B, C, Ds, into alphabet and identify what one of their number's gonna be, and put a code on it, then you can assign them a lot. Now, you might not change everybody else's lot, straighten them out on that servitude. And if you check with the post office, I'm pretty sure that 18, 19 mailboxes on a mile are gonna suffice for them to be able to turn down that private servitude. Private or public don't make no difference. It comes on how many boxes per mile. And the postman probably wants to get off of 412 for safety reasons, because that ain't a good place to stop.
Right, but you'll need to check with the US Postal System because
No.
they're the ones that
change the rules on having the
We
boxes.
did this, if everybody like, the whole, everything.
Couldn't you just take an address and leave an individual address
Everybody
being
do it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first number, and then leave them where they are, and then turn the rest of whatever's getting added, start at A, B, C, D, could you? Or maybe not even A, but B, C, D, that direction, and never actually have to change the other's addresses in this situation?
I think
Not that
we're
we-
trying to make it where it's not confusing on.
For-
what you're trying
right.
to
That's
do.
all. I'm not worried about the mail lady, I'm not worried about nobody but the ambulance and the
Right.
first responders
Right.
finding somebody in the emergency.
It's gonna be Joe.
Whose responsibility is it to determine whether, we have no clue on this, whether the things coming into the permit office are a family partition to a family member, or that they've sold it, or is that even an issue for us?
That all the concern. That's brother.
It's not an issue. On the original map, it states what it is, and then once they turn around and sell it, it don't matter. It was created under whatever the state's on the map.
That's all the concern.
So you get a map in front of it and then approve, you roll with that.
I would just.
I don't have the answer. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I would just get.
I don't either. It's one thing that's
I mean, 'cause if you readdress everybody today, they're
We couldn't hold
gonna
like
have
so
stuff
far.
coming in until the day of. And all of a sudden, they're looking for
Well, when we
38
send, when we send out, when we change addresses, we give them 30 days to make the changes.
Okay, so we wrong.
So my question is, can you send out a 30-day notice now that we're fixing to readdress everybody, give them an address of one, and give them the same notice, we're gonna change them in 30 days, and then restrict the whole place? That would be the easiest fix. We don't have to try to do an ordinance.
But then the problem I run into is there's a lot of pastures and property down there that somebody else could come in here and do this, and then we're back to square one. Because I only have so many addresses on this easement, off of Forest Cliff.
That's a messed up deal.
It's not just that one, they're all over.
No, okay. It's not just that.
If,
And that's probably what it's all it is. It's gonna start a problem. We specifically give them help with what to do, we don't know what to do yet, or what you guys are being to do.
Ben, you know your business way more than we do. I mean,
I think what we're telling you is we can't make it a public road and
What's the
even
difference
call
in
it a
Carmina
public road.
Lane and what I'm wanting y'all to do here? You
Because it
don't
was probably
maintain.
done a long time ago, and we just said we're not taking any more roads. And if maybe, I'm telling you, it would open up, for us, it would open up.
But how come y'all don't maintain Carmina Lane?
once we don't upkeep it for 10 years,
Never been a parish road.
what'd you say?
Never been a parish road.
Carmina
Fanita Lane was named by the family down there. and
But it's a
they're-
public road.
It is not a public.
It's on the Master Street address guide, it is a public road. You can Google it right now, and it'll take you to put 6818 in there.
Yeah, but you can Google the driveway, it'll take you there, but it's not on the parish map, there is.
I'm telling you, it is. I'm not gonna argue with you, but I know it is, 100%.
But it may have been before all of these new rules with us not taking any more roads and all of that. So he was probably grandfathered into.
What's the easiest fix?
I don't know, I'll figure it out, but
I mean,
appreciate
you
you
grade
helping.
it for a reason.
I thought
We just giving you a little more,
Well,
that's all.
I don't know what to do at this point.
I don't even get it.
They ain't gonna get fixed, they gonna get nothing tomorrow, I can tell you, so we just have to figure it out.
I'd say readdress the whole group of them, just, it is what it is. That's gonna solve the problem.
Is that gonna
It's
stop
not.
these people for however long it takes?
For this incident, it will, but not for all the lots that are down there that could be sold.
And that's where
subdivided.
we come in and do something like that.
We can't
And
get,
that's where-
we can't get it too either, though. You don't know what's happening.
So
my
we want a
question
guy
is,
Get you back to Cape Cod.
Can you send the letters out saying that we're gonna readdress the whole strip, but give them a number one, or whatever it may be, and just tell them this is to get your permit, to get you going, and it'll be readdressed in 30 days? That seems like an easy fix to me.
For the moment.
Yeah, for the,
We just kicking the can on down.
Yeah, we can't, I need y'all's help. For future reference, I'm saying, I can fix it for now, I guess.
Fix it
But
for now.
I'll be back here again the next time somebody buys and wants to split property down
I would be, thank you, sorry to help you.
there. All right, thank you.
What?
Update on gumbo application, after the meeting, go to the discussion of 12:15. Committee staff report, the deaf committee, has one recommendation to reappoint Mr. Ricky Dawson to the District Committee Board of Review, 5 years term. Question from the audience.
They didn't give me the emergency.
Any opposed, motion carries. What's next, Mr. Massachusetts? First, Mr. Christopher Hall.
For monthly invoices, I'd like to make that motion.
Moved by Mr. Hall, second by Dr. Quinn. Any discussion? Question from the audience? All in favor? Any opposed, motion carries.
Item number B is, we had finance committee, Ms. Quinn came in and asked for a raise for her employees. We approved it with the help of the treasurer. Matter of fact, we approved it, the president and vice president approved it. And I would like to make that in the form of a motion.
Effective December 12th. Any discussion?
It really had a caveat in it, as to that they would actually be evaluating
Accounting.
Is that all employees?
All employees.
Is that does that just move it, their first of the year, typically y'all consider employee raises the first of the year? We'll make that early.
Cost of living. Yeah. Any opposed? All in favor? Any opposed? Anything else? Public works, Mr. Desmond McCray.
Discuss gravel truck accidents on River Road.
Three of them. We've had three I've got photographs, not with me, but my name's Robert Sark, I live on River Road, 7123. We've had three accidents, and I know Mr. Kyle has gotten pictures of all of those. I'm texting those. But we had three accidents in the last week and a half. The first one was a large gravel truck loaded coming down River Road towards the Collins Creek Bridge. It went unexplained, it just went off the road to the other side of the road and looked over. Then we had another one that was up near a cash rattlesnake, closer to the plant, the current plant entrance, and that one was flipped over in the ditch. Public Works, Waterworks was there because they were afraid that lifting that truck out was it was on the water line and was going to break the East Feliciana Public Works water line. But they got that out. Ironically, I was talking to the drivers that were driving up, and they did not, I was telling them where the new proposed plant entrance for Southern Ag was going to be. Most of these drivers had no idea. And when I explained it was going to be between the Spring Branch Bridge and the Amy River Bridge, and I told them where it's coming up, they were all wide-eyed, like, they're going to get us killed. And I said, you know, you have trouble getting your trucks out right now off of River Road at Highway 10. You can see in both directions. You'll be driving up this ramp, and I told them I had called DOTD and asked them to do a safety study, and they said, well, we already gave them a permit, so we never qualified for a study. Why? Well, because they told us they only had a certain number of trucks going. So you're going on what Southern Ag told you, and you're just giving them the permit. And he kind of argued with me a little bit, and he said, well, just tell the parish to do the safety study. I said, you want the parish to do a safety study of the state highway? I said, that doesn't make any sense. And his comment was, well, I'll keep an eye on the paper and see if anybody gets killed or check it. And I called, actually, I said, okay, fine. I called a state trooper for Troop A and explained to him, and he knew exactly what I was talking about. 2 fatalities at least in the last 10 years. And I timed it, coming from the bridge, off of 80 River Bridge, you have less than 10 seconds at highway speed before you hit where their plane entrance is going to be. You have less than 3 seconds going in the opposite direction, heading back to the east from the Spring Bridge. The drivers know this. The drivers are telling me we have trouble getting our load on the road right now. That was the second accident. The one today was, again, coming, it was almost in the same location as the first one. The driver went off the other side of the road. And the road, that accident happened, I think, just before sunrise. And it was 10:20 before the wrecker was out there. East Feliciana Sheriff's Department had to go out, block off the road to keep traffic from going back and forth. And they were still trying to get the truck out around 10:30, 11 o'clock this morning. The driver didn't seem to be concerned about it. He was playing with his phone. He was sitting in the truck and just waiting to get out all out. So that's 3 accidents in a week and a half.
What can we do about this?
We just gave them a cease and desist. You don't have to worry about that.
For how long? Is it one time?
Yes, sir.
Chris Sims, another resident on River Road, just wanted to add one comment, because I've witnessed a 70-ton drag link coming down the road, coming over our little River Road bridge with no police escort and meeting 18-wheelers coming the other way at the same time. I mean, he was as wide as the road. And I know that bridge is not rated for such speed. You couldn't do that on the interstate without study.
So there are several videos showing one truck parked, one truck passing, one fully loaded, one not. Middle of the night, 2, 3 in the morning, honking the horn at each other as they pass, thanking the other one for stopping on the bridge, so this one can get through.
I just wanted to add too, I did speak with Sheriff Jeff Travis after the first incident. I have a picture and video. He was traveling northbound on River Road, and he ended up somehow in the southbound lane, like in the southbound ditch. So I talked to Sheriff Travis about it. That driver failed to report that incident. It was a citizen that called the sheriff's office, and the sheriff then responded to the scene of the accident where he was cited because of operation and whatever else. And that company did have to pay for the overtime, but I just wanted the police jury to be aware that these drivers are not reporting these accidents.
I can promise you guys, they'll be shooting emails to y'all as quick as they can, because once they get the cease and desist, they're not going to want to stop, so they're going to have to come to the table with us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Now, who's going to enforce the cease and desist?
Jerry.
We got
It
the
is
guy.
said, whatever, declaration, you got our permission.
Jerry's got a commission. Homeland Security. I mean, you come into a bunch of factors. They start flipping trucks over on the side. I don't know how much hydraulic fluid this thing's hold. I don't know how much fuel they hold. I mean, it could be a really big impact, you know.
Okay, we're gonna move on. The engineers on here.
Hot mess.
Okay, we'll scratch that one.
Yeah, we move on.
Okay, go to C, discuss and make recommendations to accept the low bid for Haynes Street paving project industrial enterprise, $43,919.
Can I ask for a favor, please? We were all 3 asked by Jackie, that anytime we try to spend more than $10,000, can we please get a treasurer's report before we approve this to see what we can move on from? We were asked by her to do that. I'm not saying not approve it, approve it upon Jackie's treasurer report where it can come from.
Okay, Mr. Hall, any discussion? Question from the audience, all in favor? Any opposed, motion carries.
Jerry, will you please, on mission, we don't get Miss Jackie tomorrow, and tell her we need $43,000.
Okay, Mr.
equipment. Who plays this?
I did, and it goes back to the issue that the residents are having. Mr. Morrow and I received an email, and we asked for recommendations on how we can address this, and it would require bonding, among other things. Mr. Quill sent it to us, and we'd like to try to get it for public hearing.
West Feliciana has a requirement, and it's based off of the business, the amount of vehicles, they do their bonding and permitting based off of their business model and their projections on it.
That's on all parish roads. All,
That's-
not just river.
That's how West Feliciana does
It
theirs.
would be
Parish
parish-wide.
wide.
For those that meet this criteria, which would be mining operations, timber has their own. So it's not timber, it's specifically towards mining and industrial, light industrial.
But I think that timber operations, and I'm not anti-timber, is where we write a permit is good for a year, needs to be wrote to the job. So that way, this office knows when they're logging, knows where they're at, and knows who destroys a bridge, just like they're talking about River Road. If you've got an overweight truck bringing in a piece of equipment, well, it's no bridge, we don't own the bridge that will take an overweight load. So, it's the same issue that we got to deal with. Need to get them all at one time, it's just like the addresses, it's the way to fix it at one time.
So do we want to, timber already has it.
Yeah.
We have, they give us license once a year.
So we just
They
want to
get a
upgrade our
permit.
ordinance,
Right.
that if a guy's coming over a bridge,
With overweight.
he's not supposed to come
It's
over.
for businesses that are gonna operate in this parish that normally utilize oversized equipment and vehicles on our roads. And you cater the permit and bond, we can get West Feliciana and get all the wording, or it's on muni code.
Yeah, we have a copy of it if you want to see it.
Yeah, and they do it individually by that, basically by that business model and that mining operation. This is what the permit's gonna be, this is what the bond's gonna be.
Now, let me ask you a question, would that cover just a business like Southern in aggregate, or what about just your everyday Joe Blow truck driver that just
All
runs out
business,
there
all
and grabs
business, you
one?
cannot discriminate, all
It's-
business.
It's part of the permitting process for those mines stuff in the parish to operate.
So it wouldn't be the truck drivers?
No, it would apply to the company doing the production, or the exploration, or whatever.
That's all company, that's just one particular company.
That's
So
right.
we can't discriminate.
No, but I'm saying, a single truck driver, let's just say,
No.
No, that's the business.
Chris gonna go get a load of gravel. I wouldn't have to go get a bond.
That's their business tax.
It would be like Southern Ag, looking back, would have had to come in here with their business model and their projections and their permit and their bond would have been based off of that by the parish. Moving forward, and any expansions or anything that follows that original permit would have to come back for review of their bond and permit.
No action taken, it's just the same stuff.
That's it, that's the matter.
Anything else, Mr. President?
Okay, that's it.
Building project.
I definitely this time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Administrative matter, Mr. Jordan, Mr. Jordan, again,
First one is what y'all have before the recommended permanent status for, Ms. Nikki there, with the effective date. We do have a precedence of doing that. The last 3 hires we've done, we've hired off of this format, either emergency hires or temporary workers. James did it, and the last 2 people at DPW, so we do have a precedence for doing that, and we are filling, roles.
Motion.
Is she gonna take over the receptionist?
No, she's overqualified for that.
We have somebody.
It's running an advertisement now for it.
And this is off of your recommendation?
Yes.
So moved.
Who are Mr. Holmes?
Second.
But Dr. Quinn, through discussion. Question from the audience. All in favor? Mr. Russo, please. Yes, sir.
Your people you hire for public works were hired to the existing positions. This position was created by emergency, hired temporarily, never advertised, so you have no fair employment opportunities for the rest of the people. So there is no previous precedence, because you did it wrong maybe once before, it doesn't make it right this time. It's
No,
it's
during-
forbidden by state law.
During, Hurricane emergency hires, that it worked here originally, and since then, they've come back on full time.
But there were, you had vacant public works positions, you had positions that were vacant.
No, we didn't feel that we hired those two specifically for emergency hires for the storm.
What were they, we already said?
And you have a position, Johnny is permit tax supervisor. By default, that means she's got to supervise something, right? So we're giving her something to supervise.
You got to work with stuff. Anyone discuss it?
Follow Nick G's opinion.
Call for the question, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
Miss Joni Stone, and, we are going, so she is enrolled in February to go to New England and get her certifications now for floodplain. And we would like, and just informational that under Parish Manager, and we're going to appoint her to that position. And that's just knowledge. Discuss make recommendation, permanent supervisor merit increase. Yeah.
Bill, CBO certified bill, it's all the things for everything.
So moved.
Second.
All right.
Any discussion? Question from the audience, all in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
So this one right here is, as you know, we've been having a lot of problems on Genoa. People are connecting the dots, that is part of the Soteris operation, is doing that big, timber harvest for the Willis Pond thing. And we're trying to come up with a solution here, and we put $750,000 on a gravel road for the gravel truck. So what we're recommending now is on this Willis Pond project, which this is not the bill for the Willis Pond project, but it is associated by default because the terrace having to harvest all this timber off of the road for it. That you guys here are letting us do $1 million bond for the road users for these projects because we can't get a grasp on it. We've tried fixing the road a few times, so that is our recommendation.
So let me ask a question. This is gonna be the timber guys that have to put up this bond?
Right now, it's gonna be Soteris as long as that's their part, and then once it goes to the heavy haul permits for the build up, for the actual part of the Willis Pond, that they'll go into the same bond. There's gonna be 2 phases of heavy equipment coming on that road. The first part's happening now.
What about the other landowners that are not Sotera? There might be a smaller portion, are they gonna have to come as well?
That's gonna be up to y'all's consideration on it, but I think at this point, because the terrace has such a big, they're not even touching the surface of what they're gonna haul off of there.
So we'll make Soterra put up the bond, not the law.
Yes.
And the reason I'm asking is because we just asked about truck drivers versus, let's just say, a southern aggregate. The problem is you take a small logging operation and you cash their bond out.
This is specific for the Genoa Road project, that's why I put it for the Willis Pond specifically, so we can.
Yeah, because if we start banging on bonds, they'll be out there,
Yeah.
they're on the board.
Exactly, that's why I said just for at y'all's determination, but unless y'all have another solution for Genoa.
Does that open the door though? I mean, if you have somebody going and logging 100 acres out, so they tear up the road logging it out? Or is then the community gonna go after that homeowner because you put a bond? You see what I'm?
They've had severance now, the timber severance to cover that cost. And I'm sure
But
Soterra
is the terror doing it as well? You see
Yes,
what I'm saying?
They're paying a severance as
Right.
well. It's a timber severance.
Yeah, timber's not timber.
So are they paying it already in the same manner?
If the harvest-
That you're gonna open a door of bonding against people harvesting timber?
It's specific for Willis Pond right now at their discretion. This one is such a large tract, I don't know what else to do to give us some protection on Genoa because that's it's blacktop.
And the road is
We can't keep up. with it.
destroyed, yeah.
Yeah, just over there, but it's terrible. What's the pleasure of the jury?
We got another.
I have a comment. So I am representing Soterra. So I'm here. Two questions. As far as you saying that we will provide the bond versus the loggers. So our typical protocol is that, you know, they would be responsible to pay for that, to hold that up. So how would you enforce that?
I guess it's gonna be up to whoever's representing on the Willis Pond project to come here before the jury and explain.
Okay, and so also, would it be the condition of the road now forward, or if we, I mean, because you get the bond and then we go harvest on the track, they pay the whole road.
We got documentation before the.
Say that again?
We have documentation of the repairs we did before you.
No, I understand exactly
I
what
thought
you're
you
saying,
said-
we fix to pass a bond down the road to
Right.
garbage.
Most of the words in garbage.
But also the consideration of, is the road rated for timber harvest? I mean, who determines that? I mean, that's,
No, but the road was in good shape before.
right, and
Now
there
starting.
are some areas that definitely need to be addressed, and I think that, you know, being fair, we look at that, maybe get on a committee or something, because we're willing
Being
to
fair,
work.
this has been going on for 2 months, and we haven't been, and it's been before the jury for 2 months, so now, being fair would have been for the log company to come to us 2 months ago and say, hey, we know we're tearing the hell out of y'all's road, because it's obvious, because it's right at the ramp where they're turning on, is where all the asphalt's given.
Right.
So I think fair would have been 2 months ago when you guys came and said, hey, what are we gonna do to fix this road? It's 2 months now.
Okay.
So
Have you
No,
been
but
out there
I mean,
to
I
see?
understand
I
your
have.
project, I understand your concerns, because when you start buying bonds, and then you start popping in bonds,
Right,
business is almost unaffordable.
right, and so, you
And
know,
it truly is. They won't ever be, you basically cash a bond, back me up, Kyle, you can't get bonded again. It's the way they work.
so, yeah, we own a lot of acres down that road, and so, like we've seen tonight, if we wanna call the timber on the road, we've gotta be able to get the product to market. So I just, looking at the areas that they're coming out on the road, it looks like, you know, there's some water backing up, there's other maintenance items going on. I mean, I haven't looked at it very closely. I went by last week and looked at the spots and saw them. So, some of the areas I think have been falling out for a little while. I don't know. I don't know how old the road is. I don't know if it's 10 years old or how old it is, how much of that is
I
maintenance.
think Jody said that, he's got pictures from before y'all started, or right before
And
y'all
plus
started.
all the work being done since the permitting and all the asphalt work was done on it,
So y'all done work since we started logging,
We've passed that road 3 times in probably 3 months.
and is it with asphalt? I mean, I don't
Yeah,
know,
asphalt.
asphalt?
And
And so-
what happens is, the asphalt's gotta have time to set, there's too many trucks. So
Right.
as soon as we patch it, it pushes it up, and then you got cars bottoming out on the fresh asphalt, plus you still got potholes. So
Right.
I'm just looking for you guys to come, I mean, if you have another solution, I don't know what to do.
Can-
But it's
Let me
worse
ask you a
today than it
question,
was
can
last
we
week.
sit down with Cetera before we start saying we're gonna throw bonds on these guys?
Yes, we can.
And maybe come up with a gentleman's agreement before, because if they cash a bond, it's gonna kill them.
Yeah, we can.
And the way it looks, as soon as this job's over, we're gonna say, okay, your bond is gonna pay for this. And it would be way cheaper to sit down as a company in Parish than it would deal with a bond. I just believe that.
Could that have been taken care of, they came in 2 months ago and taken care of that?
Maybe if we would have sat down and had this conversation 2 months ago. I'm not sure if, were you aware of this?
I wasn't aware of the extent of it, and
Okay.
I mean, I knew that the road was not in great condition, but I'm not personally on every job, you know,
I understand.
doing this, so it's kind of my oversight, and so,
Well, I know this, it's a very reputable company. I think if he'll give us his word, that he'll come sit down and talk with the executive committee, this is something that we worked out other than bond.
yeah, we definitely will, and we're open to do that, and
Let's get a meeting together.
Yeah.
Let's get a meeting, let's go in and
thank you.
Can you get your contact info to Mr.
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Morrow.
Jody's on himself.
Okay,
Pretty good case.
okay, Mr. Morrow.
That one's done. Recommendation for the task order Fort and Plata for $350,000 in stimulus funds for design engineering, scope of work for waterways, drainage removal, and then F on the grant applications for Pretty Creek, Toby River, Little Redwood Creek, Redwood Creek, Mill Creek, and Sandy Creek. So, we've got the $3.8 million for stimulus funds for 4 approved projects, best you can do. We don't own sewer, we don't own fresh water, so that leaves drainage and broadband. Special Broadband Executive. On this one, the engineers have gone and done the, basic assessment. The state's pushing this really hard. The NRCS funding, they just gave out $100 million in funding for this. There's another $100 million to give out to clean out the waterway. If we can ever do it one time under this grant, then it becomes routine maintenance for disasters hereafter. But we have to clean them out once. There's funding available. This 300+ thousand is not a reimbursable expense. That is our share to get the $10 to $27 million of the clean waterway.
Can we use some of the broadband money to pay for it?
Well, not really, right, it's just the stimulus money.
Stimulus money.
This is what they put, but what would have happened if we wouldn't have had the 16 flood, if we would have had our jump fund.
Right.
And especially 17 and hereafter. So the engineers want to do it in a phase, because you don't want to just do it, so the first phase would be Pretty Creek and all of Coney River. Second phase would be Little Redwood and Big, and the reason, the way they come up with this is a basic cost analysis. How much infrastructure flooded, how many houses flooded, bleached, and that's why, and then the last phase.
And this will all come out of our stimulus money for that. So moved.
Stimulus all, everybody from the creek, any discussion? Take it from Lord. You all in favor? Yes, sir.
When you talk about the Comet River as part of the Scenic River Program, is the Corps in contact about cleaning that?
Yes, and on this right here, we've had extensive discussion. It will be, it'll also be done by, geologists will have to go in and do impact studies before they start to see what kind of, life or, I don't know the verbiage for it, but whatever's gonna be disrupted. It's a lot of footwork coming up before any of this happens. That's why the grant application is so expensive. They cover all that. Engineers do all the permitting. I mean, they come down and they do everything from, are you gonna kill minnows to frogs to, it's a whole impact study on livestock or whatnot. And you laugh when I said minnows. The last thing there is the update on the Bank Street. All we did, I just included in y'all's package. If you look over here, DOT finally announced the bids are complete for all those projects in the off system, and ours is included in there. And I want y'all to also pay attention on that. If you look under your packet there, East Feliciana Parish project, Bank Street over Lewis Creek, that little bridge, $524,000. Just to give y'all, and I want that to give y'all an idea what we're looking at these bridges coming up next year.
Question, on the Karuk Bridge, on Karuk and, Cemetery, where are we with that now?
Karuk is scheduled to be completely completed in June. It's just right now trickling in the spans and stuff, that's the only project we finished done, Thomas. We finished the road, Singletary, different issues tied up between two railroads right now that we have to negotiate. And we went and met with Rob Ligon and Mr. Boyd 2 weeks ago to send letters. You got two different railroads claiming they own, basically it's about 2 square meters of property on that project. That we have to get permission for the, but
I'm being asked questions about the residents in Wilson, they want to update.
that's it, railroad. We have to get the railroad, we have to negotiate with the railroad to give us 2 square meters of barren swamp water to expand to the bridge.
So the railroad's not holding up now.
Yes.
True, thank you, sir. Anything else tomorrow?
No.
President Porter, is in your package. Just send it to the court. That's Commissioner Board, Planning and Zoning Commission. Since the map wasn't on the agenda, to the public, we had to add it to the agenda. We got to look at each map one at a time and have a roll call vote. We just can't prove all of it now.
Have they been through planning and zoning?
Yes,
Everything's been approved?
we keep planning and zoning. It's all the process, just what it is on the agenda. In this process. So let's get started. The first one, recommend approval on Constant Major Plan, LLN Service, the Wood Labyrinth Supervisor.
Motion.
Mr. Clay. Second.
Hard to do anything without seeing.
Yes.
Yeah,
at all of them.
I'm reading up, I'm reading them up. That's why I'm reading them
I know,
up.
but it's hard.
It was an add-on.
Yeah.
What's this for, this stuff? Roll call.
Mr. Michael Cheatham,
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall.
Yeah.
Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Recommend approval of Sheila D. Wilson to R.D. Fusion Associates, LLC, to run Fusion Service.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Thank you. It's too late now.
We have Mr. Michael Cheatham,
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall. Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Recommend approval of zoning inquest case. Mickey L. Robinson, Service.
Second.
Any discussion? Please.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Recommend approval of Weaver Exchange Company, Service. Brandon J. Roberts.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie
Yes.
Oakley. President King.
Yes. Recommend approval of Tony Brumman, Charleston, Jamaica, Service.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall. Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Recommend approval of Virginia Court, Charleston, Jamaica, Service.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall. Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Recommend approval of Keisha Sanders, Charleston, Jamaica.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall.
Yes.
Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Recommend approval of Larry and Sharon Hursler, and Bobby Lees, Baptist Springs, Service.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall. Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Recommend approval, that Daniel W. Turner, Raymond Creel, Service.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Michael Cheatham.
Yes.
Mr. Kyle Flanagan.
Yes.
Mr. Chris Hall. Mr. Ronald Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Jason McCray.
Yes.
Mr. Keith Mills is absent. Mr. Richard Oliver.
Yes.
Dr. Christie Oakley.
Yes.
President King.
Yes. Anything else? Okay, let's, if you start saying what comments, Mr. Keep yourself there, you. Okay, public comment. Let me go, then the session, but it was a 10 minutes,
Sorry. First. Second.
all in favor?
It needs a lot.